There are two types of comments that I've been getting recently. First up, it's the people asking me on whether they should buy this game, whether it is worth the money, and if they buy it, which version they should get. All that stuff. Should I get the gold edition? The season pass, do you think it will be worth it in the long run? And then second up, people have been asking me on whether I'm actually still enjoying The Division and making content for it, because I don't sound so happy. I don't sound overly positive in my videos or very excited at all when I'm streaming. I've actually received a lot of comments like that. And there's even a Reddit thread that claims that I'm burned out and that I should stop making content for this game because obviously I'm not enjoying it anymore. Yeah, no joke. It is a real thing, and it was on the front page for a day with 800 upvotes, and I'm pretty sure it would have gotten more if the moderators hadn't shut it down. So, I can say that it's not true, but apparently a lot of people feel that way, otherwise it wouldn't be the top post. So, I think it is something that I have to address with more than just a meme video, sort of, in a response. So I was going to do a general opinion video on the beta, but instead I think I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach. Instead of making a video where I just go over what I like and what I don't like, which is obviously going to be received in a very negative way now if I did as much as sneeze in the wrong way, I decided to kill two birds with one stone and make this video, which is just meant to give you an insight of what I am expecting to get out of this game. So it is two birds with one stone because, for one, I hope it will shed some light on my perspective on the game, my approach with this game, what I think I will do with this game. And second up, it will hopefully also answer the question for a lot of people on whether they should get the game or not, without me telling them if this game is good or not, without me telling them what to do, because I'm not going to talk about what I like so much about the game or what I don't like so much about the game. I'm just going to talk about what I think I will do with the game, how I will spend my time, what I think this game is going to be all about, what I think we'll get with this package. And then you can decide for yourself whether that is something that's appealing to you or whether that's a safe purchase. If you agree with me and if you maybe play games for the same reason, then yeah, maybe it's a game that you might want to get into. However, if you don't agree with me and if you are simply playing games for a different reason than I am, then, maybe it's not for you. Or vice versa. Maybe you disagree with me, but you still think that the game's going to be for you. That's the point of this video. I'm not going to tell you. I'm just going to sit down and talk about what I think I will get out of this game. What I think I'll do with this game. So first up, do I expect this game to be the next blockbuster that everybody talks about or the next big thing? No, not really. I'm pretty sure the game will be a significant step up from The Division 1. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a good game, but it's not going to be a game without its issues, and it's also not going to be for everybody. The main reason as to why I am so interested in The Division is because as of now, it is the only AAA franchise that has real RPG character building and PvP all meshed into one in a very complete and competent product. Now sure, there are other looter shooters out there. We have, for example, Destiny, and Destiny also has PvP. But the character building is, in my opinion, very, very limited. It's basically about getting max armor and then a couple of good rolls, but that's really it. Once you get your exotics, there just isn't that much more to do. And then we, of course, also have Anthem, which does actually seem to have a somewhat in-depth RPG character building system. But then Anthem doesn't have PvP, and even if PvP would be implemented later on, I don't see it being a very serious or even a proper feature because, given the flying and all the movement, that's going to make for some very janky PvP experience. At least, that's what I think. Now, I don't think that Anthem should get a PvP mode. I don't think it is bad that Anthem doesn't have PvP, because there's a big market for players that just want a PvE game. But simply, that's not for me, because for me to get serious with any game, it needs to have some sort of substantial PvP mode. Again, I do respect the lots of players that just play games for their PvE or their storyline. And with some games, I do that myself as well. For example, I played The Witcher 3, I played Prey, both very good single-player games. But ultimately, after I complete those games, I'm done with them, right? It takes 20, 30, or maybe 40 hours, or maybe in some cases 60 hours. But eventually, those games while they're good, they're limited. There's an end to them. And it's not something that I can just keep playing because I don't just want to keep slaying the same NPCs over and over again. So then we get into the part where I kind of need PvP for me to enjoy the game past, playing 100 hours. And The Division combines shooting with RPG elements, and it also has PvP. So it kind of falls into this niche category, this niche market that, I really like. It's a game that combines many genres together. It rings a lot of those bells that I'm looking for when I want to play a new game. And I really like the whole package that we're getting, even though the game itself may not be perfect. So yeah, The Division is a shooter then. It's an RPG. There's PvP, there's PvE, there's a whole bunch of things there crammed together. You would say there's almost something for everybody. But let's say I launch up the game on launch day. What am I expecting to do in The Division 2? What is my experience going to be like? Well, first up, the very first thing I'll do is, of course, I'll complete the storyline. The storyline comes before any content, pretty much. I guess you could go into the Dark Zone, or you could do some dedicated PvP earlier, but most players, they get through the story first to get to max level, then they get some gear, and then after that, with that gear, they play even more PvE, or they play more PvP, right? So first up, the storyline, let's talk about that one. I don't think this is going to be a storyline that's going to blow anybody away. Like, for example, in The Division, I don't think we'll have dialogue options. I don't think we're going to have choices that alter the end of the game. It's kind of really difficult for games like these to do that, because players can join into your session anytime. And if you then would make a choice in your session that doesn't line up with, what your friend has done in his session, it becomes very confusing very fast. So if you're looking for a personal story to the levels that The Witcher 3 has had, then, that's not going to come with this game, but there's still going to be a substantial amount of single-player content. First up, the storyline has been quoted to last about 40 hours. For myself personally, I expect it to be closer to about 15 hours. This is part, of course, because I am a YouTuber for this game. So I sort of need to rush the things to get ahead, to be able to make guides for others that just get at the end game. And also, I've played The Division 1 quite a lot, and I've also followed this game for quite a while. So naturally, I'm going to be just a little bit better than the average player, which means I'll go through the content a little bit faster. Just for context, I think The Division 1 actually had a quoted 25 to 30 hour storyline, and I also completed that story on the very first day. I mean, I was streaming it, I think, and I had some issues with the stream. So in the beginning, I also took about half an hour to just set the stream up like an idiot. But still, I completed that campaign in about 13 hours. It was after 13 hours that I reached level 30 and did all the missions. So if I see that this game now has 40 hours of quoted storyline, I think for the average player, that's going to fall somewhat closer to 20 to 25 hours. And if you're really fast, probably 15 to 20 hours. And if you're really, really slow, if you're one of those guys with 5 kids, 3 wives, and 16 jobs, then yeah, it's probably going to be those 40 hours with all the side content. Now, as of the content itself, I think it will be a nice campaign. From what I've seen so far, the missions are really different from each other. They truly have some really good-looking environments. I think the way the game looks has always been a very strong point of that whole studio. They really know how to make a game look good. And I think that throughout the missions, you'll encounter different type of NPCs to keep you kind of engaged. And that's what you can expect for the story. It's not going to be anything groundbreaking, but I guess it's going to be good enough. It's going to be fun, and it's going to last you, as I said, about, let's say 30 hours. Now, after I hit my max level and complete the story, I sort of expect to play a little bit more PvE to figure out, what is the best way to farm gear, because that's the big thing in this game. You got to farm gear to get stronger, to get better gear, to get even stronger, all that stuff. So after I hit max level, I'll probably try out a whole bunch of things to see what the best ways are to farm, and then farm for a couple more days until I have almost all the gear that I want, because I think it's going to take a few days of farming. And when I talk about a few days, I'm talking about, 12 to 16 hours a day, just grinding missions to get the gear. Of course, you could also take a lot longer. If you're playing 2 to 3 hours a day, you're going to get there. You're just going to get there slower. And after I get most of my gear, I'll probably try out the Dark Zone, explore that a bit, and eventually start to just look for PvP. Because as I said, the game needs to have substantial PvP for me to enjoy it after those 100 hours. And that's where Division is so great for me, because it has that Dark Zone, it has that environment where I can just test out my builds versus other players. Now, there is also a big PvE endgame loop. They've already mentioned that, after you get to max level, the whole map gets invaded by a new faction, and, you can do missions versus the new faction, all that stuff. So there is something to do other than PvP at the endgame. But the thing is, I just don't really care too much for PvE content after I get my gear. And again, this is not to disrespect anybody that just wants to play PvE. Just do what you like, I guess. But at the end of the day, I feel like you're always fighting just the same NPCs once you get to that end game. I don't really feel better about myself if I kill NPCs that have 30,000 hit points or 50,000 hit points. For me, the PvE is a barrier to get the best gear so I can properly play PvP. That's sort of how I think about this game. I am quite excited for the raid though, because the developers have said that they're making this raid really, really difficult. Really something for only the hardcore players. I'm not too sure if they really mean that. I still think that the raid is going to be fairly easy to complete for, pre-made teams of 8, because they don't want to push away too many players. I think that the developers believe that it's already really difficult to get 8 people to work together that haven't really played with each other. So I don't think they'll scale the raids to be almost impossible and really make it this end game experience. But I do think it's going to be a cool experience. I think it's going to be something that they've put a lot of time into. I think the environments are going to look crazy. I think the boss fights are going to be pretty cool as well, unlike anything we've seen in the Division 1 so far and in the Division 2 at that point. So it's definitely something that's going to be a one-out-of-a-kind experience, but I don't think it's going to be something that's just nearly impossible to complete. So yeah, let's say we're a few weeks into the game. I've completed the story, I have grinded my gear in the PvE missions, I've done the raid a few times, and at this point I am basically spending all of my time in the PvP in the Dark Zone. I might play a few more hours of missions here and there to try my luck, to try to get maybe the last item. Having a perfect build is of course something that's always desirable, but as far as PvP goes, I think just getting more PvP experience in there is going to make more of a difference in how well I can beat other players than finding that last mod. So, after a few weeks, I'll probably just be playing the Dark Zone, just be playing PvP. And until new DLC drops, where I am again required to grind for better gear, I'll probably keep doing that. That's probably going to be the experience for me a few weeks after launch, no matter what happens. So yeah, with all of that out of the way, there are still 2 things on my mind that make me think that this game might not be the game for me to play in the long term. Which are also the very same reasons why everybody's been saying that I'm sort of burnt out on the Division and gaming in general. Which really, it isn't true. But yeah, if you're going for a game like this, if you're really planning to make a game your second life, then some of the smaller issues are obviously going to become bigger issues. So let's talk about those. First up, the bugs and the glitches. The game, as far as I played it, the beta, it has many, many bugs. Now, I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to tell me. Marco, it's just a beta. This is what the beta is for. It will all be fixed before launch. And if that's your opinion, that's fine. I'm honestly really tired of the discussion of, no, it will not be fixed. Yes, it will be fixed. No, it will not be fixed. Yes, it will be fixed. We're never gonna get to a happy medium there. So all I will say is that I hope you're right, and I hope I'm wrong, because I would like this game to be better than I think that it's going to be. But you know what we'll do? We'll pick a date, let's say the 28th of March, maybe like 2 weeks after launch or something. And then we can come back around the table and talk about the game again and see if any of the bugs that I showed off or mentioned in the video or talked about showed their ugly head again. A lot of them are not game-breaking by any stretch of the imagination, and some of them will definitely be fixed before launch, I think, but not nearly all of them, and some of these bugs can be really annoying. Like, for example, some of my skills sometimes don't work again. I click the button for the Seeker Mine, I press the throw button for the Seeker Mine. Instead of my agent throwing the Seeker Mine, he puts it back in the pocket. Happens a lot of times. And again, it's not game breaking, but if you play a game for hundreds, maybe thousands of hours, that's gonna get annoying really, really fast. And it's going to eventually drain the fun out of this game for you, because you're gonna die a lot of times because of that. And it's just gonna add up. Trust me, I know, because that was the case with the Division 1 for me. So if you are concerned with the technical state of the game, it might be worth to wait for the reviews. And that's all I'll say on the topic, because I also want to talk about the second thing that still kind of makes me iffy about the Division 2. And that is because I think that the PvP in this game simply will not be as much fun. So that's a pretty bold statement, so let me explain a little bit. Because yes, the PvP in the Division 1, it was bad. There's no question there. It was a hot mess. And yes, the chicken dance, or whatever you want to call it, is gone now in the Division 2. Sort of. But at the same time, in the Division 2 in PvP, there isn't much that you can do as a player to really set yourself apart from all the other players. Movement is very slow now, which some people like, and that's fair. But as a result of that, you're almost stationary now when you're shooting. So, you know, on consoles this may not apply, but on PC it is extremely easy to just put your cursor onto somebody, hold down the fire button, and well, that's a kill. And yeah, we have some different skills and a couple of different talents, but none of them really allow for a whole lot of playmaking. It's all just small stat boosts, or in some cases, you know, small changes to the skills. I'm sure in the end game it will open up a little bit, but nothing that I've seen so far really allows good players to do a lot of playmaking. It's all just either buff this part of your character or buff that part of your character. You know, you might run around with an assault rifle and a damage build and a Seeker Mine that kind of does something, and then your enemy runs around with an LMG and has a drone, and you know, he's all kind of mods for the drone. But at the end of the day, you know, you click your skills, you put your cursor on the other player, and you both press the mouse button until one of you dies. There isn't really anything else to the gameplay. And for a game that, as I said, is for a big part PvP for me, because, you know, after a week or so in, I don't think I'll be playing a whole lot of PvE anymore. This is a pretty big concern. And as bad as the Division was with its PvP, this was never really the case there. You know, we had, for example, Combat Medic, which allowed you to clutch save your teammates. We had Critical Save, which gave you a big buff if you managed to clutch a medkit in the last health segment. Or On the Move, which gave you damage mitigation if you kill the target while moving. All of these things, they could only be done by a more skilled player, so to speak. Now you could tell me, well, any player could do that, but that's because most people that watch me have played the Division for so many hours already. You know, as bad as the PvP was in the Division, there was a very big skill gap, especially when the game just came out. You know, the PvP was bad, but there was a skill gap. And I can't really see that too much here. And, you know, I never really talked about this in my previous videos, because when I was at Massive and I was at Paris, I was playing on console. So I thought, you know, I kind of suck with a controller. I'll admit that any day of the week. So me not being able to make a lot of plays, you know, it's the controller, right? So wasn't really blaming it on anything else. But no, it's even on PC, even a very veteran Division player isn't going to be able to do much to set himself apart. In the Division 1, if you were good, if you utilized the right buffs at the right time, you could 1v2, 1v3, 1v4. In the Division 2, you can't really do that anymore. It's just two people moving the cursor over to the other player and then clicking down the mouse button, and whoever has slightly better aim or slightly more armor or slightly more damage is gonna come ahead out of the fight. And it's just, I don't know, it's just a little boring in my opinion. And that's obviously that could be a concern for somebody that plays PvP as much as I'm going to do. So yeah, that pretty much sums up this video. I hope that gives you a good insight of what this game is about and where my concerns with the game come from. And if you're not a PvP player or a hardcore player in general, you might look at these things and think like, doesn't even matter. It's not going to impact my fun for the game. And that's good. And that's good, because I never said that the game was going to be a bad game. That's never something I said, because the game has so many good things to it. It's just, you know, when I look at all of this and I put it all together, I think it's just going to be just meh. And that's it. Not something that I can play for 10 hours every single day. But yeah, as always, I'll see you guys later. Or, like they say in the Netherlands, zie je later.